The week leading up to opening night is called Hell Week. And it's not just because it's the last week to kind of perfect all your dances and get them ready to perform or do the last minute tweaks to the lectures, but it's the technical nightmare that kind of consumes everybody in the show. And what's really difficult about a space like Arena is that it's so heavily used. So the Saturday before my show opened, the musical Hair closed. That night, they strike their set. The very next day, on Sunday, I spent 22 hours in the theater trying to continue kind of that transformation process. And then there were 5 consecutive 20-hour days trying to just get the theater ready for my show. And what that really means is I didn't get to spend any time that week leading up to the show preparing to dance. 4 across the middle. There's 10 park cans, one of them's already hung in the middle. So if you just put 3 on the left, 3 on the right, and then the 3 additional in the middle, that's where we're gonna hang all the park cans. Here, I'm gonna fast forward. We're not good. How's lights?
The one that is working.
You know, the Arena is a very difficult place to work in because it is so old. The sound equipment in Arena is original to the theater, which was built in the 70s, like early to mid 70s, something like that. So the audio in there is awful. It dies on you whenever it wants to. You have no guarantees of it working. Some of the clusters weren't working right. We had to rewire things just to get the audio to work. And then the audio was made for voice production. It was made to reproduce the voice in a theatrical play. It was not made to blast loud music. There are no lows in the theater, so we brought in a bunch of subs. You know, we brought in some 15-inch subs to put on the stage and fire right at the audience so we could actually get some lows in there. And then, even worse is the lights. I mean, they don't even have a par can in Arena Theater, and so we had to bring in basically all of our own lighting for any type of special lighting effect that we did. So the lights that you see in the show, if there's any color on stage, is from the lights we brought in, and that is not an easy thing to do.
So right now what's happening is we are hanging the lights, finding power for the lights, and connecting them. We have these things called XLR cables to run a DMX signal, which is basically the language that the lights speak, so that we can control the lights and tell them what to do so they don't do their own thing. And so we have to daisy chain them, like plug light A into B, B into C, C into D, D into E, and do that for every single light we brought in. And then we have to plug all that into a board. So what we've been doing for the last, let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, no, it's like 5 or 6 hours, is trying to hang and plug and cord, and we're not even done with that yet.
Chris.
Yo.
Stop spinning.
That's good. They're warming up. Once they're happy, they'll be happy, happy. Well, once we get all of this programmed, all of these lights connected, we're going to test them. We're not going to program them yet. We're going to plug them all in, put them on auto mode so they just move to the music. We're going to turn out the lights, blast some fog, and see how many lights we have to see if we have enough lights to light the stage without using the theater's lights. Because that is the goal, not to use the theater's lights. And if we can do that, we'll be very happy people. So hopefully within an hour or 2, every light will be plugged in and cabled, and then after that is programming, which is a entirely different beast. Because then you have to sit at a computer, enter in cues for the lights, and tell the lights what to do, and that takes forever. But Max, my light guy, and I will do that. Oh, Max is the guy that I'm bringing in to program lights. Max and Ezra are both light guys for the show.
You see, we are up in the cats. We are the people who have to do everything. There isn't kind of a separate technical crew whose sole job is to prepare the space. Each show has to provide its own people, and that's why it took about 80 people to pull this production off. And we do everything ourselves. So the cast is actually up in the cats with harnesses on, hanging over the edge, 30 feet off the stage, trying to grab chains and hang lights. And what we do is very kind of makeshift. We're trying to retrofit the theater. I mean, the theater is very old. The equipment is old. It was not made for a moving light. And so, I mean, they have Fresnels and things like that, theatrical lighting. And I wanted to bring in these big moving head, lights where the entire head can turn 360 degrees. We have lights with moving mirrors. We had, LED park hands and a bunch of LED fixtures. And so we had to hang those ourselves. And some of them we couldn't hang from the normal spots that you would hang a light. We had to actually take steel pipes, connect a bunch of pipes, tie ropes to them, and hoist them manually up into the cats. So they hung from the bottom of the cats. And then we just took chain and wrapped chain around the pipes and ran the chain up to like handrails and clamped them down. And it was an arduous task that took all day. And so, after we spent hours and hours hanging lights, and we spent hours and hours cabling them and getting them up and focusing them and doing all kinds of things, my worst nightmare came true and nothing worked. And so at that point, I told the entire cast and crew who was there to help just go home, leave. And Max, the light guy I brought in from Northfield, and I stayed in the theater. And that took an extra like 4 or 5 hours out of the day just trying to figure out why nothing worked. And then finally, just as about 9 o'clock rolled around, 9 p.m., we had finally gotten control of almost all of the lights. Some of the lights we just could never get to work right. And so that was working from for myself, 8 a.m. until 9 p.m. just to get the lights up and get control over them. And then the stage still hadn't been painted. We were very behind. Tech Day was a mess. It was a mess, hot mess.
I'm Max Denton, lighting producer and coordinator. All right, so what we got here is a list of all the lights that we currently have rigged up in the theater. We got some basic ones like park hands and the blinders, and we got some of these crazy wild ones, design spot here, and we have various controls. You can open the shutter, get that window out of there, open the shutter and get some intensity. We're taking a look at that light right down there, and I then have the ability to not only control where the light goes, and I'll shine it on that black curtain there, or that white curtain rather. I can not only control where the light goes, I can control what color it is. I can make the colors cycle through. I can apply different gobos, different effects. I can rotate the gobos through. I can spin it. I can pull the beam in and out of a frost. I can make the beam smaller, larger, and I can focus the beam. And then I can set movement macros to have the light follow a specific motion path that I draw out. And the light will then follow that path. Now once each of these settings are applied for each individual light and sequences are brought in, then that's when we get to have a little fun and combine all of those into sequences such as this that contain multiple moving light cues and macros and chases among the more conventional lights. As you can see here, we've set up what are called sequences, and each sequence contains all the settings I just showed you for the light. So we have well over 100 sequences here just for this show alone.
Right here, so you hear how it sounds. It's like boom, and then like fade the park hands in to light up the stage.
Okay, in addition to all this?
In addition to all of this.
There we go. And this is mask 4?
Yeah.
And this is like a snap, right?
That's a snap.